Lebanon. We're seeing the Israelis attack Lebanon significantly and ferociously. What's the update on Lebanon? I saw a number of strikes by the resistance. We're on YouTube, by the way. We're by the resistance on Lebanon. At least, I think it was like 30 or 40 FPV strikes today. A large number of hits. If you can give everyone an overview of what you've seen happen in Lebanon over the last week or so.
Yeah, so the Israelis are continuing their invasion to the Yellow Line in southern Lebanon, which is essentially their buffer zone. By the way, they've already passed it twice in multiple areas. So this is just a BS diplomatic ruse by the Israelis for the Lebanese government, saying that's all we're going to do. We're just going to go to that line, dismantle resistance infrastructure, and we're going to go home. Yeah, they're not doing that. They're having a lot of bombings north of the Litani River, which the resistance isn't really settled in at all. But right now in Lebanon, we're seeing a lot of horrific strikes. I mean, horrific strikes on Nabatea, that's yet again north of the Litani River. Daily strikes on Tyre or Sor, if you're Arabic, that's how you say it. I'm learning. But some in Bekaa, which is the Bekaa Valley, which is northeast Lebanon. That's the mountains bordering Syria. Yeah. The Israelis are striking with impunity right now. They're striking a record number of paramedics. We've seen over 100 children killed, over 3,000 total civilians killed right now. And on the flip side, the resistance is doing all they can. Yet again, they are in a tough spot. I mean, to say the least right now. The Israelis have been bombing them since October 8th, 2023. So they're not at full capacity like they were in 2006 or like they were pre-September 2024 when the strike happened. So, but they're still holding a resistance, which is what they're supposed to do. They want to make it difficult. They want to be a porcupine to make it difficult for the Israelis. And there were 2 Israeli deaths today in Lebanon. That was reported about 30 minutes ago. We're going to get info on that. In total, we're, I believe, well over 40 IDF deaths in southern Lebanon. We don't know how many have occurred in northern Israel because we don't see the helicopter evacuations to really count the casualties. But as long as resistance can continue utilizing the FPV drones, which, as everybody that knows anything about the Ukraine situation right now, there's no way to stop it. There's no way to detect them. Radar can't pick it up. It's too small. There's no way of shooting it down. They're too quick. They're too easily to be launched. They're just handheld and launched. They're a few $100, so they're able to buy them in the dozens and the hundreds very soon. And I read that 30 of them were launched, like you said, today. And yet again, you just walk out of a tunnel. You hold it in your hand, you press a button, and then just fly it into something, whether it's an Iron Dome battery, they've hit multiple, whether it's a Merkava tank or a group of soldiers, which is how most of the Israelis are dying right now, the soldiers right now. And I just want to point out that if the resistance wanted to, they could fly these FPV drones into northern Israel and hit civilian targets pretty easily. They've decided not to. Just want to point that out there, that they're striking solely military targets right now, whether it is in the occupation zone in southern Lebanon or border areas in northern Israel. And on top of that, another thing that happened today is a reserve fighter pilot was, his jet allegedly was a civilian aircraft, so his aircraft crashed in northern Israel. We're not getting a lot of information on that, but I do want to say it's very interesting that a fighter pilot, he's a reserve fighter pilot, a platoon commander, was flying a jet, a civilian aircraft, near the Lebanese border, and it mysteriously crashed. Could that be the resistance shot it down, which the Israelis would deny that until their last day? Could we get an interesting video from the resistance or a statement sometime tonight about it? Would be interesting, but it's just a porcupine strategy out of Lebanon right now, and they're doing a pretty good job at it.
I had was it Leif Marouf on Friday. We're going to get him on again this week, and the question I asked him was, what is the level of Israeli casualties? He gave a number that was much higher than we're aware of. In his understanding, he believed that there were, I believe he said 2,000 Israeli casualties plus, and in addition to that, 400 Merkava tanks that had been taken out. What's your understanding of the level of loss when it comes from the Israeli side?
Yes, so we're going to take casualties as deaths and critically injured. Essentially, a casualty is a soldier that's not going to go fight again.
Okay, let me rephrase that. Yes. 2,000 deaths, he said, not casualties. Casualties are a lot higher, sorry.
2,000, no. 2,000's too high. 2,000's not going to happen. I mean, the Resistance had 30 FPV drones launched today, which was the highest we've seen. And just given that, and they had 2 deaths on the outcome of it. I mean, 2,000 is incredibly high. You know, Israel might have 10,000 soldiers max in southern Lebanon right now. 2,000 would be an extreme number. They didn't even lose. Maybe they lost less than 100 in the 2006 war. You know, Israel's a small country with a small population and a very, relatively a very small army size, extremely small, to be completely honest. They have a lot of reservists, which yet again suck at fighting. They don't want to fight. These are people that are like forced into the army. They don't want to do this. They don't want to be in the IDF. Who does right now? So 2,000 deaths. From everything I know, from even people in Lebanon, people in Israel, that is very high. I could say that you could maybe make an argument of 2,000 deaths plus injuries. I would still say there's only around 500 casualties, which is deaths plus critically injured that's not going to come back and fight. Because, you know, the resistance doesn't fight on a statistical level. They're not trying to inflict as much damage on possible. They're simply just trying to add a fear factor. They're trying to make it unbearable so that whenever you see maybe just 3 IDF deaths a day in Israel, which is what, 8 million, 7 million people and only around 70,000 in the Israeli army, that adds up over time. That's more families that are very angry. That's more political parties that can pressure Netanyahu and pressure the Israeli army to withdraw out of that because, you know, he's going to face a critical election coming in November. So, you know, if 2,000 were to happen, man, they would have withdrawn at one. They would have withdrawn at 300. I just totally refute that. Maybe he knows something I don't, but that number, I just want everyone to comprehend that 2,000 IDF deaths, that's something that hasn't been seen maybe since the Yom Kippur War, if that. I mean, that would be... it's just not real.
I personally don't think it's that high, but I do think it is a lot larger than what you said as well. And the reason for this is you're right in saying it, that if you look at Israel historically, they run away at the smallest site of any type of loss. I think what's unique about this one is that the Israeli psyche is the same psyche I think we all kind of have to an extent, that this is the final war. This is their chance to take Lebanon, take Iran, take all these things, and therefore they're going to have to take a bit more loss than they are accustomed to. So I'm hearing the number being decently high. At first time I heard 2,000, but I think the number is quite high. Because remember, they had lied. They hid the actual real numbers about the number of people who died. What about Merkava tanks? How many Merkava tanks do you think have been taken out?
See, if one is destroyed or even just damaged, you're essentially going to get the same outcome. Because if you have a damaged Merkava tank, it's not going to take a week to fix. I mean, this is going to go in a factory on back order. If you even just damage one slightly to where it's out of combat duty, that Merkava tank is not going to be ready for war within... It might take up to 8 months. So whenever somebody says destroyed, or I say struck, because yet again, if you hit the tank, whether it's destroyed, blown up or not, that tank is going to be out of commission for months. It's going to take millions of dollars to fix it. And, I mean, man, given that we're seeing daily videos, multiple videos, I mean, drones now are just destroying these tanks. And yet again, we know from Ukraine and Russia, there's no way in the world that you're ever going to stop these little FPV drones. If NATO couldn't figure it out, if Russia and China essentially working together couldn't figure out how to stop them, I promise the Israelis won't. So I would say on a low number of Merkavas that have been hit, I would say you could say as low as 400, as high as 800, which is an extremely high number. Fully destroyed, you're probably looking around the 100 number. But yet again, each one of those is $5 million. I mean, we can easily say that they've lost nearly $1 billion in just tanks being hit, because if you say you fully lost a few of them up to around 100, because there's been around... 400 announcements from the resistance on a direct hit on these tanks, and that's all you need is a direct hit, whether it's a drone strike, whether it is a rocket, or one of these anti-aircraft missiles. All you need is to hit the tank and just put it out of commission, out of combat readiness, and then they're going to have to take months to repair it. So I would say fully destroyed, you can look around 100, damaged out of service. Man, actually looking at it now, damaged out of service could be up to 250. So you're looking at 350-ish tanks that have been put out of commission.
That makes sense. And just last question on Lebanon. How do you think it's going? Like, how much more longer do you think the Israelis can continue doing what they're doing on the ground?
Well, they've held land. They've held land forever, but they've held meaningful land since 2024, the 2024 invasion. They held 5 outposts. They never left. But as of now, they're deep into the south. I mean, they're in past Qiyam, past Ben Jabel, past Nakora, past Tibet. They're deep into some major Lebanese villages that total over hundreds of thousands of people that are going to want to come back. Whenever we get a full ceasefire, these are hundreds of thousands of Lebanese civilians that are going to go back to their villages. And Israel, they're just not going to be able to hold them. At the end of the day, if Israel wants to maintain a very small buffer zone at the border, maybe something like that's possible. But for this continuous ground invasion and occupation of major villages that we're seeing right now, I don't think they can withstand it to the election in October or November, whenever it is. So I would say that you're going to get an Israeli withdrawal out of the major villages within 6 months. We don't know when the strikes are going to be. I know that the Iranians are pushing hard for a complete ceasefire in Lebanon, not this BS where the Israelis get free roaming to where they can bomb places that they're threatened. That's not a ceasefire. A ceasefire is everybody behaves and are on good terms. Because we know from what we've seen from 2000 up till 2023, if Israel doesn't attack Lebanon, the resistance has shown that they're not going to attack Israel. Because, the resistance isn't built to do that. They're built to defend Lebanon and to help assist the Iranians and Palestinian cause. They're not there to invade Israel. That's just not going to happen. So I think the Iranians know that. I would assume the Americans know that. But the Israelis live in this fear of if anybody is strong around them, it's going to be the end of the world. So we could see a deal, because I know this is an Iranian red line. If we get a deal, President Trump knows that he cannot sabotage the entire deal over Lebanon, essentially. He's not going to throw the deal away and just restart war because Israel wants to continue bombing Lebanon. So I think we could get a minor ceasefire within 5 weeks. We could get the bombing fully stopped probably within 2 months and an Israeli withdrawal by the election this